Liverpool and Arsenal compete for Romeo Lavia's signature as Southampton place their price tag on the 19-year-old Belgian international. Bayern Munich are set to make their second bid, according to Sky Sports in Germany. And we have an update in regarding Moises Caicedo to Chelsea. We've got that and so much more to talk about in this summer transfer window and all the football news that I'm sure we'll be breaking. But let's get into it, people. Wagwan, everyone. I hope you're doing well and welcome back to Tereak Talks, another talking transfer show, which we're doing it on the second day, 2 days in a row. I've told you guys I'll keep my promise. To those of you that caught yesterday's show as well, where we went into much depth talking about Manchester United's Mason Mount coming. We'll definitely talk about that again today because as you can see, I've got my headphones on, which means I've got a guest, and I do have a special guest here with me. Someone who has been on the channel before, someone I call a brother. And I absolutely love talking to this guy about anything, not just football, basketball. Love watching his content with Pros Only Sports on Pros Only Sports when he's there co-hosting with Roland's chat at Pros Only Sports as well. But this is someone I like talking about with life. He's such wisdom and knowledge at a young age. I was about to say reminds me of myself, but that's not very humble saying that. But nah, he's definitely someone I love talking with, and I'm bringing him here for you guys tonight. You've seen him on the show before. You'd have seen him in the comments. It's my brother CM. How you doing, my man?
Hey, that was A1 intro, bro.
Oh, I'm glad, man. I'm glad that I lived up. I could have went on for longer. You saw me talk about Xhaka yesterday. I could have done the exact same thing for you.
Hey, I appreciate you, bro. And thank you for the invite. It's always a good time on this channel. I feel like out of the many channels that I've been on, not even been on, just watch, I love the TTF because the community is so in touch with everybody. They love communicating. They're always showing love. And something that's very rare in this day and age is positivity. And I don't want to go on a tangent already, but one of the things that for me is a massive turnoff is just the amount of negativity that is on social media, on many people's platforms, even like the owner of platforms kind of pushing for that negativity, because in the end of the day, it sells. Controversy, negativity in this day and age, sadly, it sells. But this channel, this community, they're built on love, they're built on respect and great communication. And that's why I always love interacting with everybody in the chat. So I love coming on and talking with you and just everybody else as well, because it's refreshing.
Oh, I'm glad that you feel that way, man. And I'm proud of the community that we're building here. And it's all thanks to you guys that are here watching. Whether you're watching live or watching afterwards, thank you for those kind words, CM. So yeah, it's in life, sport is a get out. Sport is something sometimes can it reflect upon how you feel, how you react to certain things. But as long as we just enjoy ourselves, enjoy the moments, and feel the down moments as well and the disappointment. But as long as we can come together as a community of football fans, whether you're a Man United fan, whether you're an Arsenal fan, Liverpool, Chelsea, whatever, we've got so many fans within this community, and I am proud. To call you guys TTF and friends and family as well. So now let's get into it. Let us get into it, bro. Before we do, you can go check out CM in the description below. There's his @ for his Twitter as well, CM22ENT. The links are in the description down below as well. But let's start off with the main headline in Liverpool and Arsenal in the race for Romeo Lavia. As we've seen today, we've seen mixed reports from Sasha Tavilleri saying that Liverpool are the favourites to sign the youngster, whereas where we've seen other reports saying that he would prefer to go to Arsenal, given the fact that Arsenal can offer Champions League football currently straight away over Liverpool. And this is what's been reported. This is my opinion, that there is clearer direction into where Arsenal are heading right now, and he would like to be a part of Arteta's young team. CM, I want to throw this to you first, because this is someone that I know a lot of United fans have spoken about. What's your thoughts on Romeo Lavia, and where do you think he should end up?
I think he's a highly talented player. no doubt about it. Any team that's going to purchase him right now is based on the potential for him to grow as a player. Because even watching him at Southampton, you can see the areas that he needs to improve in. But moving to a big club with the correct infrastructure will help him to unlock some of those weaknesses in his game. But definitely is going to be a wonderful asset for either team that gets him. I was going to say, for Arsenal's perspective, like, you guys should be really proud of where you've come as a club, not just of how you're playing on the pitch, but kind of the way you're operating outside of it as well. Because even the Declan Rice situation, I know there was a lot of stir up regarding the Enya Luko thing you actually said on Talksport and all of that kind of stuff. But just looking at that situation as a whole and seeing Manchester City going, and there's a lot of worry for Arsenal fans, because if you look at what's happened in the past, you're like, of course you're going to choose Manchester City because they'll most likely offer you more money and a better opportunity to win. But even with Arsenal not achieving that league title or anything like that last season, you can see that there's a pathway to grow on. So you get Declan Rice, you have a potential to get a Romeo Lavia, who is a guy who can contribute for you next season and then grow into a player that can almost be a star in this team for many, many years to come. Liverpool, even though they're in the Europa League, I think they're an attractive outfit just because we have that mindset, especially after the last few years, that Liverpool, they're going to do much better this season. And I'm not going to go as far to say Liverpool will be back, because they have to do a lot of things. They've brought well so far, but I'm still have a lot of concerns in regards to how they're going to change their system with the players that they've brought, with the players that they've lost. Some of the guys getting up there in age, will they be able to produce on a certain level? Still many questions for the for the likes of Darwin Nunez, and for example, Cody Gakpo, who has some good moments, but was a little inconsistent too. So they're in somewhat of a transitional phase when it comes to them trying to figure out what's going to work, because I don't think Klopp is going to be able to rely upon the kind of system he's used in the past to get him that league title and the Champions League titles and just having great league campaigns in general. So right now, I would say Arsenal's the more attractive outfit. Just looking at the guys that have left, there's still rumors around Thomas Partey. I was kind of shocked when I first initially heard that there could be rumblings in that news of him potentially leaving. But I guess we'll just have to see what happens there. But even if he does leave and you bring in a Lavia, potentially that might work out better for you in the long run. When you look at Thomas Partey, as great as a player he is, his availability can come under question sometimes just due to his injury issues. And I know as a Manchester United fan, everybody knows you can have a great player. If a great player is not there, they're as bad as somebody who's on the bench for the majority of the games in your Premier League season. So that could be an interesting development.
Absolutely. I do think you are right. It does depend on Thomas Partey for me and the future surrounding him, whether that's on or off the pitch. In his way, because we've seen today there's been more news about Bell being extended, but we're not really going to get too much into that because we don't know the finer details. But on a footballing level, you are absolutely spot on. That's what we can't rely on, his availability. We know as Arsenal fans who watched him this season, in the past season, we know the level that he can play at when he's at his best. We talk, he's in the conversations with your central midfielder who's been the star of your show, and this season in Casemiro, who's a 5-time Champions League winner. We've seen, and that's the levels that Partey's up there with Rodri, throwing him in that conversation as well. But just simply, what kind of the same similar issue you've had with Casemiro is the availability factor. And one more thing that we saw from Partey was a massive drop-off in his form towards the tail end of the season, which I really do think got under Arteta's skin, because you saw him get rotated out later on in that big Newcastle game, Jorginho kept his spot from the previous game against Chelsea, and and Arteta trusted Jorginho in that moment. Whether that is because of it is based on trust, or there was rumours that Thomas Partey was carrying an injury and he was managing that towards the latter end of the season. We won't really know unless either one of them came out and spoke about it. But yeah, it is something that I'm open to now. And it's something that when the initial news of Lavia broke out that Arsenal are interested in him, it was kind of underwhelming. It was kind of underwhelming because we're looking at him as a replacement for Partey because all the rumours were surrounding that. We would have liked him to be an addition, but you simply can't do that when you've got Jorginho already there. He's looking like he's staying. El Nene's even still there as well in the first team. So he's a last resort. Maybe you play him in the Carabao Cups. And then if we've just splashed 105 million on Declan Rice, it doesn't look like it is viable to have 4 defensive midfielders of that level per se. So with Lavia coming in, I am warming towards it because this is someone who's shown tremendous ability in his first season, tremendous responsibility as well. I know Southampton got relegated, but playing consistently, he picked up an injury at the beginning of the season with a hamstring injury, but he was able to be consistent and be their shining light next to James Ward-Prowse there and show that he is at the level. And this is where I want to throw it to you now, because you gave a great overview on Liverpool and Arsenal, the attractiveness right now. But let's talk about you. I want you to be Romeo Lavia in this situation. Given what you've mentioned, Liverpool, they've still got, Jurgen Klopp there. They've still got that, that buzz around the club. They've got a lot of optimism still as you balanced it out. We're unaware of how they're going to quite bounce back this season because, who knows? We never saw the major drop off from last season, from the season before that, did we? And they've still got areas to work on, even if they did bring a Lavia in there as well. But Arsenal, young, fresh, vibrant team with a young manager, with a great atmosphere and culture in and around the football club at the moment, who are going from strength to strength, who have just broken or about to break their transfer record and a British record as well, who are in the Champions League. Who would you, if you're Romeo Lavia, all things weighing up, where would you decide to go?
It's a tough decision to make because I could look at Liverpool right now, right, and say potentially there's a better opportunity to get more game time in that Liverpool team if I play my cards right. You could say the same for Arsenal, but they have quality players. They brought quality players in this window. So it will be a little tougher to fight. But honestly speaking, I would say Arsenal right now because you look like you have the structure set in place. You have the players. You're showing the ambition in improving that team based off of where you finished last season. You're not resting on those, those joyous moments. And I think that's very important. That's a really good sign for anybody when you look at a team who had major heartbreak last season, I would say, because to be top for so long, to start to believe, and then it starts tailing off towards the end. But now seeing in the summer, you bring in Havertz, whether that's going to work out, we'll find out. You bring in Declan Rice, which is soon to happen. You're looking at Urian Timber. You're bringing in quality players who are going to not just act as an extra member of the squad, but they're going to improve guys. They're going to act as competition for certain guys in many positions. So that is a positive for me. And I want to put myself in that environment where I'm being tested at the highest level. I have to handle the pressure and respond to that pressure because that's how you become a better player. And I think football in general, it was always risky, but I think especially in this day and age for young players, it is extremely risky because when you're young and when you're talented, you see him with Bellingham, he's gone to Real Madrid. I think that's a really good decision, how he's worked his way up the ladder. But if he decided, for example, to come to Manchester United from Birmingham City at the time, I don't think his trajectory as the player he is now is the same. It's like Jadon Sancho coming over from Dortmund to Manchester United. Because the infrastructure is not there to nurture a player like that and grow him, all of a sudden he's getting a lot of backlash and people don't think he's going to be the player that a lot of us thought he was going to be. So with Lavia, I think he has two great choices here. But at the moment, I'm edging towards Arsenal because, like I said, the infrastructure is there. You finish second. You have a platform to grow. You're back in the Champions League now. So there's going to be more games, more opportunities to play football, to impress the manager. And most importantly, the ambition is there to test you as a young player, for you to learn from the experienced guys, from the young guys too that have been through it. And that is exactly the environment that I would want to be in.
Exactly. It was interesting hearing that, and I do like that. And before I give my thoughts on where I think Lavia will end up, I'm gonna throw that to you as well. Where do you think he will ultimately end up this season? Because Chelsea are an outsider in this race as well. I'll let you think on that. As CM's just giving his thoughts that if he was Lavia and there was a choice between the two, both terms were agreed, he would choose Arsenal. But big up yourself, Shay, in the building as well. It says big up to you. You're a legend. Really appreciate you there for that, Shay. Hope you're keeping good and well as your birthday soon approaches. Big up my brother Wilf in here too. Says yes, my little bro, and bless up the TTF. Hope you're having a good one as well. He's asked the question here: do you like the new Burnley badge? Ooh. I'm a bigger fan of the Aston Villa one. I've seen that. I like the Aston Villa badge a lot. The Burnley one. Do you know what I mean? I'm
feeling for that minimalistic design.
Yeah, I do. That's it. That's with the Aston Villa one. If you have a look at that one, they've gone for something a bit more like that as well with a circular badge. I do like it. You know what? I'm going to say yes. I do like change. I do like difference. And yeah, I think they'll do well in the Premier League too. So I just will need to see. I don't know what their kit looks like though. Well, I'll have to think about that. But good question. What do you prefer it to the old one? See it?
I think it's nice.
Yeah.
Just because I like things that are simple. Sometimes, yeah, when they look simple, when it just looks clean, and I think a badge like that would look nice on the shirt. It wouldn't stand out too much, but it wouldn't also look, like it's something you didn't know. So it's nice. I would say it's better than the old one, but the old one has a bit more personality when it comes to just the team Burnley. I think this one, if you look at the badge and you take away the letters, you wouldn't instantly know it's Burnley Football Club. I feel like the old badge tells you instantly this is Burnley.
I think that's a good shout. I think that's a good way of breaking it up. This one's a bit more marketable, isn't it? It's a bit more, look, the simplistic look. It's something that you'll remember a lot more. Burnley, the old badge, it did have a bit more of the characteristics of Burnley, a bit more of an old-fashioned type badge with older-fashioned colours. But it's this one. It's just got two colors now, the claret and white in there. So yeah, I totally hear that. That was a good way of explaining it. Big up my brother Savage in here as well, who is watching this later. So now I hope you're keeping good, my brother. He says, big up, bro, not around for the show. I will catch you later. Just showing love, G. Big up. Who's a Liverpool fan, wrestling fan, film connoisseur. Go check him out at Savage Talks Wrestling as well, people. Big up Brush in here. Listen to the man, as he says, like, share, and subscribe, not to just my channel, but to CM's. The link is in the description. Rich in here, the family over at Eagle Eye Football, Crystal Palace fans, go check him out as well. Tereak trying to prove that he lets CM speak. Hey, I always let him speak, man. Always do. This is someone who rambles a lot. For me to sit down and listen, that shows how much knowledge CM does speak. When CM speaks, you listen. Simple. Big up my brother Rich right there. King is in the building. He says, big up the man them. Hope you're doing well, King. And I hope your family's all good and keeping safe. Moss is in the building. Not happy with my Yankees cap as usual. On July the 4th, mate. I didn't even think about that. You see, I like the way you think, Moss, but happy Independence Day to those who are celebrating it out in the US as well. And Jamaica could be Jamaica versus Canada quarters. CM, have you been following the Gold Cup? Yes. St. Kitts and Nevis, the 5-0 will through to the next round. Who are we playing in the next round?
I'd have to see, bro, because this is the thing that's been annoying me. Yeah, I haven't been able to watch the games because they're on so late. So I'm like, I gotta catch up on everything. But what I do know is we're looking a lot better as a team, cohesive unit. Obviously, we have a more threat than front three now with Amari Gray, Antonio, Leon Bailey. But we just look like a better unit. In the last couple of years, I even remember the last Gold Cup. We were up watching that one unbelievably when some games are starting at like 3 a.m. It was crazy. But I remember the last one, the biggest problem with Jamaica is when we need to put the ball down, keep it on the floor, we can't play football. A lot of things that we keep the ball in the air, we can't control games. On the counter-attack, there was potential to be a threat, but at the same time, we couldn't put things all together. And then we'd have decent coaches, but at the same time, when you have the JFF weighing behind us, not a lot of investment and support from the government itself, which still is the case. But I just think we brought in a coach now who looks like he's putting this team and molding it in the right direction. So that's what I like to see, especially if we want an opportunity to get to the World Cup. We're going to need a bit of stability in those areas, and we're bringing in quality players. The big thing that I want out of this era is what are the government going to do to invest and improve upon the infrastructure so that we have proper homegrown players coming into this team and making a difference.
That's it. Absolutely. And you spot on there when I think about that with the Jamaica national team. Now we're going to have that stability. We are going to be more of an attractive proposition for the likes of Damari Gray, who's now made that switch. We need to be showing that and showing that positive, that growth that we're going to be making, that we're willing to invest in our national team. Maybe we might be able to still get an Ivan Toney for 2026. Who knows? Who knows? Or anyone else? Because if you have a look at the England team, how many people that could qualify with the new ruling for how you can qualify for a national for, another nation through the grandparents? Boy, we could have a lot of those England players in there as well. Even some of them that you wouldn't even think of. Kieran Trippier, them guys there. They got Jamaican.
Bro, I remember finding out a while back. Even Ross Barkley's got in his roots, bro.
Yeah, he's got Nigerian, ain't it? That's what he's got. Yeah.
He's got Nigerian. There's so many different guys where you look at them and it's like, what? But I guess it's just it's a natural thing where we look at the guy, we look at what you look like, and it's like, I'm automatically judging you like, come on, bro, you're English.
Hey, I've just been trying to teach my nephew this as well. A little bit off topic, guys, but that there's actually Chinese people in Jamaica who look fully Chinese, but they speak Patois, and he baffles him. But hey, that's what's the slogan? Out of many, is it what is it? Oh, come on, to see him. This is we're testing each other here. Is it out of many? We've become one. So you see, we're showing our poor language of Jamaica right here.
Out of many, what is it? Out of many one people or something like that.
Something. Someone might have to correct us in the chat. But but out of many, you get the
one people, out of many one Jamaica. You know how it goes. We know. Don't judge us. We know.
Yeah, exactly that right there. So now, big up yourself, Moss. Big up Manji's in here too. Says Tereak, do you think you'll sign Mbappe? No. Big up CM, Cliff. And snap, CTC and CM collab finally. Big up yourself, Manj, in the building. Pax is in here too. He says, big up CM and T, both better than most pundits in the game today. Appreciate the love. I do think we will break it down and analyze deeper and more balanced than most pundits. I will be honest. Which I'll try and bring a bit of the Micah Richards in here too, you know, from CBS in there as well. But I appreciate you there, Pax. Realist in here as well. Ed's in here too, as well, saying things you love to see. And CM chatting ball, T and CM chatting ball and life. Hope you both well. Hope you're keeping well as well, Ed. And a big up yourself, Realist. He says, yeah, man, what's up? Everyone else that's in here in the chat, love to you all. Just the final bit on Lavia as well. Where do I think he'll end up? Ultimately, I think he will end up as a Liverpool player. And the main reason being, I think they will get this wrapped up sooner than we think, because Arsenal, we're still in the race and we're interested in Lavia, but this is dependent on Thomas Partey and the sale of that. And he's feeling a bit unsure at the moment, according to reports. He's attracting interest from Saudi Arabia, which Arsenal seem like they're the ones who are really trying to push him to make that move. As you can understand, that's where a lot of the money will be coming from Arsenal, around 40 million euros mark. And Juventus are the ones sniffing around him too, but they're half of that price, 20 million euros, which Arsenal aren't really happy to sell Thomas Partey for. But it seems like that's where Thomas Partey, that's his preferred destination. So we'll have to wait and see in regards to that there. But I think it will be Liverpool, as is. There's also a clearer pathway, in my opinion, for him to get first team football, with Fabinho getting on now. And they don't really have anyone beyond him. Stefan Bajcetic is their next player in line in that defensive midfield position. But I think Lavia bridges that gap in terms of quality and experience. I know it's probably not by much because they both really broke through this season, but Lavia played the majority of this season. So there's a bit more of a bridge in the gap there. And both players can play in more of a 6 or 8 position, more advanced in that midfield as well. So that's my opinion. CM, do you agree or do you disagree? Where do you think he will end up?
You know, it's hard not to agree with you after your reasoning, you know, because I was just thinking about it when you mentioned Fabinho. I was like, wow, because I know it's easy to look at a player, right, and say, oh, he's finished, or he's this and that. But to see where at the level he was at before and the drop last season, it kind of made me think, is it more to do with the player, or is it more to do with the surroundings and the instabilities of that Liverpool midfield? Because when I look at it, I'm leaning towards the latter, because I always find it hard to see where a player goes from 100 to 0 in such a quick succession. So that's why for me it will be interesting to see Liverpool kind of get back to that level where they invest in the area, bring a bit of stability in all 3 levels, defense, midfield, and attack, just to see if I'm correct or if I'm wrong. Maybe he has dropped off that much and Liverpool just need to look forward to the future. But I will say, once again, Liverpool, if you want more game time, probably a better opportunity to break into that first team. And I think there's less pressure on them as well, because they're coming off a really bad season. If I'm looking as an outsider, I don't know what to expect from Liverpool. You're playing in the Europa League. You have a relatively easier opponents in that competition until the lot from the Champions League come in, if you reach that far. So again, just more opportunities to play. It's not that much of a jump too. So yeah, I would agree with you. But on a personal level, I would always say I want to challenge myself and go higher. And that higher right now is Arsenal.
Totally agree with you there. Sorry, guys, giving you a little snippet into what we'll be talking about next. But totally agree with you. I would love it if he did come to Arsenal, because we're talking about them future-proofing our midfield then for years to come. We've been linked with a Moises Caicedo, but that just seems like the price is going to be too much for Arsenal to pay for. Now we spent that much money there. But with Lavia, more reasonable. Arsenal still trying to negotiate this, but if there is a bidding war that will ensue, I do think that there is a greater desire for Liverpool to make that deal get done, given their issues and as you spoke about with Fabinho, to provide more balance for that team there. But a top player in Romeo Lavia, and as you saw right here, guys, and I must have got your head scratching because this is only just broken out. I thought we can watch this together. There's no music in it, so we shouldn't get a copyright strike. But this has been shared by Mason Mount, and this is his statement to Chelsea fans. So this kind of tells you that the announcement is here pending. So keep the finger on the trigger. I'm sure CM will keep us updated if that does happen. But here it is Mason Mount's statement to Chelsea.
Over the last 6 months, this may not come as a surprise to you, but it doesn't make it any easier to tell you that I've made the decision to leave Chelsea. I feel you deserve more than just a written statement, so I wanted to tell you directly how grateful I've been for all of your support over the last 18 years. I know some of you won't be happy with my decision, but it's what's right for me at this moment in my career. I joined Chelsea when I was 6 years old, and we've been through a lot together. Winning the Youth Cup, my Player of the Year awards, the Super Cup, the Club World Cup, and of course the unforgettable night when we won the Champions League. I want to say thank you to the Academy, Jim and Neil, for being so influential to me from such a young age. The managers I've worked under, Frank, Thomas and Graham, the backroom staff, the unsung heroes of Cobham, all of my teammates over the years that have become my brothers, my family for the continuous love and support, and most importantly, you guys for sticking with me throughout. Wish you all the best.
Interesting right there. So the announcement of Mason Mount to Manchester United will be following that shortly, guys. There's his thoughts, thanking a lot of the Chelsea fans and staff. And he said he made this video because it's felt like that's what they deserve. CM, as a Manchester United fan, and then we'll get your guys' thoughts to the chat. I saw a lot of them talking about his hair, his choice of hair. It kind of shocked me when I first saw that too. But I want to ask you this, CM, your thoughts and feelings on Mason Mount becoming a Manchester United player. You can talk about the fee. That's been well spoken about, publicized. That's what's drawn a lot of negativity around the situation. Man just letting his thoughts known there. But Erik ten Hag has really pushed the boat out for this man, and he's finally going to bring him into the football club. What's your thoughts?
Well, that has been the kind of, maybe crazy is the wrong way to describe it, but it's been interesting to see.
Sorry. I knew
no, you're good, but hey, as long as the bottle weren't open.
Exactly.
You know that. But it's been really interesting to see how we've pursued Mason Mount. Definitely not a player I would have thought would be coming to Manchester United at the start or before the window. And, a lot of people seem to have this same opinion. It's either okay or I didn't want him at all. Not an overwhelming signing. But if you look deeper into the meaning and I guess why Erik ten Hag has pursued this kind of player, it's because when you look at Manchester United as a team, we are, and just a team to watch, we are absolutely shocking. We will have our moments, whether it's on the counter-attack or when we have a nice piece of play where we're stringing passes together and it leads to a chance or a goal every now and then, but it's not on a consistent basis. And a big part of that is control in the middle of the park, which is integral nowadays in the Premier League. You must have the physicality, the technical ability, just the all-round play to dominate any team in the Premier League nowadays. Because we've seen Manchester United rock up to the teams like sometimes West Ham, they get the best of us. Some teams that are at the bottom of the league can get the best of us in the middle of the park and overrun us. It's not just your Manchester Cities, your Arsenals, your Chelseas, your Liverpools that are doing it. It's all other 19 teams that can do it to Manchester United. And of course, we got Casemiro, who improved us. defensively, gave us a level of stability that we haven't had with the likes of Fred and Scott McTominay. But, you have Bruno, you have Christian Eriksen. Bruno Fernandes is that guy who's going to go up and down the pitch, but preferably we'd like him in, I'd say, the final third region of the pitch, or at least higher up, so he can receive the ball and create opportunities from there. And Christian Eriksen, as great as he was at the start of the season as a kind of deep line playmaker who would make late runs close into the area at the edge of the box, he really became a little fatigued as the season went on. And that was the biggest shame, because then we became a predictable side in the second half, because everybody knew we had to make that Christian Eriksen substitution at around 55, 60 minutes. So everybody knew what we were going to do, and that made us a little predictable. And I think that contributed, wasn't the main reason, but it contributed as to why we kind of dropped off in that final part of the season. With Mason Mount, and look, I know Mange and other people don't like it at all, but taking away last season, Mason Mount, the only thing I would say is he needs to be a little more productive in terms of his goal scoring threat and his chance creation, because sometimes he can be a little bit off. But at his best, even when he's not providing goals per se statistically, he can be an all-round guy in that midfield and make us a little more solid. His defensive work, his pressing game is really good in comparison to who we have there in that midfield right now. And that is very important in Erik ten Hag's system. You've got to have guys who work tirelessly throughout the entirety of a football match, who are great pressers of the ball, who can work defensively as well. You've got to have multiple qualities to play in that high-intensity midfield, and that is just a step forward. So I understand why Manchester United fans don't like the signing of Mason Mount. But for me, I would rather you bring in a guy, and look, the price, we can all speak about the fact Manchester United overpaid, did they, didn't they? But I would rather you bring in a guy who is going to be considered a transitional player to improve the quality ever so slightly as we start to build our way up. Because we can't just go from Fred and McTominay to per se, I don't know, Luka Modric and a Toni Kroos. You can't go from not at the level to all of a sudden world class, world beater, because that's not where we are as a team. So, and that's why we're skeptical at bringing in a guy in Harry Kane, because when you look beyond even our goal scoring, it's chance creation as well. We've been a team that, in my opinion, just watching off the eye, are not a great team at creating clear-cut chances. So then you're going to have to rely on a guy who has the quality to convert difficult chances outside of the box or create for his own. But yeah, I think Mason Mount is the right step forward for our team if all works out. If it doesn't, I'm sure there will be people saying, I told you so, this and that. But in the end of the day, football is such a 50-50 sport. You don't know what's going to work. You don't know what is going to work in the end of the day. You just have to hope that the player is going into an environment that suits him and allows him to express himself, so that it rubs off on the teammates and everybody around, like what Lisandro Martinez did, like what Casemiro did in terms of changing the mindset of some of our guys. Erik ten Hag has been vocal on how he's communicated with Marcus Rashford. So many young guys, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Diogo Dalot, how they've transformed their form, their mindset, their will and want to win, creating that culture within the club and attracting players because of that culture you've built. So it may not be the most exciting signing, but we've already been there where we've brought in guys like Angel Di Maria, even though he was past it, Bastian Schweinsteiger. He was a very exciting name at the time, but he was just a little too old. Radamel Falcao, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, Paul Pogba, all of these guys that we look at them and say, they are going to take us to the next level. They are going to win us the league, but we shouldn't be looking at it from that perspective anymore. We should be saying, okay, we need to now become a perennial top four side, because We can't be a team that gets into the top 4 one season and all of a sudden we're dropping back into the Europa League. That's not development. That's regression. And we've been at this point where our managers have had great first seasons or good first seasons. And for whatever reason, there's a drop-off. That is unacceptable, whether you think so or not. So now we need to start rising gradually, rising gradually instead of forcing to break those barriers, because right now we don't have the power. We don't have the ability to do that. We're far away from Manchester City. I would even say we're far away from Arsenal. I would have said before last season we were far away from Liverpool, but I guess it depends how they push back. We're even far away from Chelsea, because even though they had a horrific season last year on the pitch, Todd Bowley, who we were ridiculing at first, has now brought in the infrastructure in that board to operate at a high level. So now they've got great negotiators, guys that are going to sell players on for great amounts and save on that wage budget and bring in players who are going to improve their team. They've brought in a good manager as well, in my opinion, who will probably fit, if all goes well, the timeline of some of those guys and the ambitions of Chelsea of being a little more consistent as a football club. That's where we need to be. Manchester United's number one word, in my opinion, is inconsistency. We'll have a good season, we'll have a bad season, or we'll have a season where there are good parts, extremely bad parts. You don't know what to get from Manchester United. So, look, I'm okay with the signing. I'm not jubilated and I'm not furious, but I just hope that Mason Mount can be a piece in that puzzle that still needs to be completed, and we'll still need multiple windows to see that come to fruition.
Absolutely. And this is it. And that leads perfectly to my point that I raised in Realist's chat when he was doing a stream earlier, talking about Mason Mount and Manchester United signings. As football fans, what we now need to do is mature. And by maturing, I mean, stop looking at signings, targets based on their previous performances for their previous club in a different environment. We need to look and understand why top managers like Pep Guardiola, Jurgen Klopp, Eric Ten Hag, Mikel Arteta, and many more make signings. It's based upon more other factors. And I think the big overarching factor is they look at a player's profile and traits that they have and what they can do and how that can impact their team and further develop their philosophy and improve their team. Looking at Mason Mount, his profile fits exactly what Eric Ten Hag wants to do at Manchester United, to build on from his first season, where we saw elements of his philosophy, but he was ultimately limited by the players, by the tools that he had, the players that he had to work with. The best way to put this across is, I'm going to give you an analogy. If you're going to buy a car that you want, that you desire, and you've got a certain budget and price and a certain car that you want, you're not going to buy a car based on another driver, on how another person experienced driving that car, because they're different to yourself. You're not going to buy a car based on a different environment. So if you're living in Canada in the depths of the snow, where you need a big four-wheeler, where you need something like that, durable, and think, oh, I can't get a Lamborghini even though I'm living in LA because X, Y, and Z struggled in that environment there. That is literally how you have to look at that with terms of assets in these football players. Because Mason Mount is entering a new environment now in Manchester United, where under a different coach, under a different system, a different style. And I think personally, he will be entering more stability. Yes, there's still a bit of uncertainty surrounding that, as we're not quite clear what the where the takeover is in terms of that stage, what's going to happen following that once it inevitably does happen. CM's just ticking, watching his clock, hoping and praying that will come soon. But I think with Erik ten Hag, Manchester United are going to be trying to build in a stable way. They have trusted him. He has been given a lot of tools, a lot of trust in terms of his recruitment, spending the money he spent on Anthony, Lisandro Martinez, not Timber, sorry. Sorry, that sounds like a little dig, but no, he wanted Timber. They were willing to push further for that. But, looking like David De Gea is now going to be leaving the exit door in a disrespectful way, yes, but helping Erik ten Hag's philosophy. And finally, we haven't seen Manchester United managers given that trust and responsibility before. So Mason Mount, his profile on and off the ball will improve Manchester United greatly. He will add a bit more creativity in goals and then around that final third, which Manchester United have lacked, because that's been the main source of creativity has been Bruno Fernandes. The main source of goals has been Rashford, and it has been lacking elsewhere a lot for them. Mason Mount can be a secondary source of creativity, a secondary source of goals with his late runs into the box. We're talking about a player, if you want to bring his past performances, 2-time player of the season at Chelsea, at the age he's at as well, people, we also need to remember that, because CM brought up, you've seen Manchester United sign the likes of Falcao, Bastian Schweinsteiger, the points that they're at in their career, huge names with a lot of respect and a lot of quality entering a different phase in their career. Whereas you've got Mason Mount, who's 24, not even yet at his prime, but in his prime years, and why there are so many Chelsea fans who are quite disappointed by this move, disappointed about how the club has operated in this, losing an academy talent who's shown promise and shown areas of weakness, but who isn't going to show areas of development at that young, tender age and in that environment with so much instability. And for me, the big part and what links with Kai Havertz, you're playing him in the wrong position. Erik ten Hag has a plan for him, believe me. And you can see that with how he's trying to build this team and with the targets that they're looking at. Eriksen, who would have thought Eriksen would have been playing in such a deeper role next to a Casemiro before Erik ten Hag was set up there? And yes, it was a bit more of a square peg in a round hole, but he's setting out his style and system and his principles of play to those who will be there for the medium to long-term future. Because I don't like how when football fans think of this short-term thinking, just play with the players that you've got now and just make the best out of that. Because if you're a manager, if you're trying to build something at a club, it's going to take time. Players are going to have to develop. You will see players like last season who weren't as great further along and really improve. I mean, the best example of that is Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Luke Shaw, who we spoke about yesterday in greater detail. But I only just thought of Aaron Wan-Bissaka, and look at how further along his game has developed on the ball. When he's being pressed, he looks a lot more assured, and he knows what he's doing because he knows the players in and around him, the patterns of play. That's something that took a while for Arsenal to develop. And even when we had clear weaknesses of no strikers, no one to really put the ball in the back of the net, we had weaknesses in our depth. We saw even that last season. But if you're building a team, and this is as an Arsenal fan who are further along in their process, and we are looking like we are entering our final stage, it is clearer for players to come in and say, I know exactly what I need to do here. I know the role I'm going to have. Arteta knows exactly how to further develop me, and I want to be a part of that environment. Adding Mason Mount, a young English attacking midfielder who's been trusted by so many managers and played in successful Chelsea teams as well, by the way, who we forget that the season prior to the last, they were in 2 finals. And they won the Super Cup. Season before that, they won the Champions League under a good coach in Thomas Tuchel, where all that stability was thrown up in the air because of the Roman Abramovich issues and Todd Burley deciding to make it into a tornado at that football club. Mason Mount, I think he'll be a success as well in that point of view. Big up each and every one. What was you going to say, CM? Sorry.
I was just gonna slide to the side just for a split second. I was thinking because I was having this conversation with my mum earlier on. We was looking at Ruud van Nistelrooy and we were speaking about the quality of footballers back in the days and how there there were a lot of players under the profile of, I would say, guys who could thrive as individuals. Isn't it interesting how football has developed into such a complex sport that it is now the system players who tend to thrive, and those guys who are more of an individual entity seem to struggle even more now?
Say that again. Sorry. What was that? Sorry.
Isn't it interesting that football has become such a complex sport in regards to systems, that those type of players who can be plugged into a system, who understand their role to a T, perform better than guys who are, I would say, more individual entities and just can go out there and play their style of football, in competition to your manager's style of football and play into your own role.
Yeah, exactly that, bro. That's how we need to look at football nowadays. It needs to be a much more clearer identity in terms of philosophy. Mason Mount never had that at Chelsea. There was so much upheaval, changing in management, changing in styles. You can't have that. You simply can't do that. The principles of play have to stick the same. And yes, we don't like to talk about them because they're your noisy neighbours across the road and the team that beat us to the title. They will change in formation and change in different ways and stuff, but their principles remain the same in how they play, how they dominate, and how they look to score and create goals. Yes, they might move little pieces like John Stones are taking on that role and developing his game further, but they still have the same. And I heard Erik ten Hag speak about this. Actually, he's implemented 83. There's 83 principles that he's added now into Manchester United, and it's not just on the pitch; it's off the pitch, how they carry themselves, into training, how they communicate with other teammates, and those things there. That's what you need to do. Have that consistency, and that environment will, consistency. If we're on YouTube here right now, how's the best way to grow your channel? I've not been bringing that a lot, but it's being consistent and being consistent with your timing, with your message, with everything across. And that's where you get people to buy into it and ultimately perform. That's what high performance businesses, individuals do. Build upon that consistency, and whether that's into their philosophy. Your philosophy is going to be different to ours. That's the beauty of life. We'll see things in different ways as football fans. Me and CM agree a lot of the time, but we've got plenty of people right here, right now, who we definitely love you and love to hear your opinion, which we'll get into shortly. The way you see football, the way you see things, and that's where we can have that's where we have differences and you can celebrate it. And that's where we as individuals who, let's say me and CM, we see something in a different way, but you present us in a different argument, but it's a well-presented argument. Yeah. I'll be willing to take that on board and change my opinion. That's how we watch football. Pep Guardiola's changed the game.
And
Arsene Wenger changed the game. Sir Alex Ferguson.
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that, bro, because people need to move away. Like, I don't know where this thing came from, where people started getting criticism for changing their opinion. If you change your opinion, that's a sign of growth, especially when you have a conversation or a debate with somebody. You hear a different point of view, and now you're able to rethink what your thoughts were initially, merge it with those other people's thoughts and opinions, and then come up with almost an upgraded version of where you started from. That's the beauty of debating. That's the beauty of conversation, is that you have the ability to hear different opinions, especially when those people are clued up. They speak in an informative manner. That is the beauty of changing your mind and elevating. But for some reason now, everybody wants to say, this guy's a flip-flop. If, for example, a week ago he said this, he heard something and he's changed his opinion the next week. No, it's just mean that person. It just means that that person elevated in their mindset, in the way that they think, and that's something that should be celebrated a lot more in this internet community.
Exactly that. So true, and something that we do need to be open to. And that's well said there, CM. Mount will have a better season than Havertz. I'll come back to this at the end of the season stream. Disagree. Of course, I'm going to say that. I really do back and believe in Havertz, but I do think both of them will have successful seasons for their club. CM, are you going to back your boy as well and say Mason Mount will have a better season than Havertz? I think it's fair to say either, to be honest.
You know what? I'll back my boy. In general, you know, when it comes to these conversations, I'm like, miss me with that, because I don't know. I don't know why I'm like this, but I'm not exactly the tribalistic type of football fan, where it's like I'm gonna ride out for my player. Like, nah, I just want to watch good football. I want to enjoy the team, and I'll see everything that's going on around it. But I'm not gonna be like, this guy's dead, bun him, bun his family, all of that stuff there, because it's not me. I see people move wild and wicked on socials. I remember going to a game last season, and the way some people act is crazy to me. But everybody's different, right? Everybody's different. Everybody, because one thing that I've learned even more, because I'm a relatively young football fan, right? So it's become an experience, especially I would say once I got to sixth form, college, and them times there, where I'm learning, for some people, football is their only outlet. Like, when they get home from work or whatever they do, the only thing they care about to lift them back up and to put them in a different reality is football. And that love is deep. And we may disagree with the way some people display their love for football, but in the end of the day, that's just how it is.
Exactly that. Right there. Ed says, I'm looking forward to him being coached. He's never been coached by managers or coaches he's had. He does the work both ends, two-way player, and I'm not a huge fan yet, but the skill set is there. That's it. And you broke down his skill set, and now he's going to be in an environment. It's a big challenge for Mason Mount. He's got no excuses now, but that's what sometimes you need to be at that position in life to push on and push further as well. And that's personally speaking, sometimes you need to hit rock bottom to really learn about things and then push on from there too. Definitely agree. I'll take them odds. Havertz will do better than Mount. Will speak further into the season. That's Will's response there. Let's have a look. Big up Sean in the building. Says, what's up, T? How you doing, my friend? Hope you're keeping well and safe. I'm doing good, thank you. Thanks for tuning in, and love for showing the love in here too. Let's also have a look. Moss says, a good manager that can actually coach is valuable. Mikel Arteta and Erik ten Hag have brought us back. Definitely. They brought us both back into the Champions League last season, and I think that Erik ten Hag will bring Manchester United further forward now, with the Qataris looking to come in. With the Glazers, he would have been capped again. The ceiling would have been there. CM's hoping, he's got his fingers crossed. We'll wait and see for that. Of course, nothing's done until the ink is dry and everything is announced, but we'll wait and see on that there. Manji saying, I'm entitled to my own opinion. It's like I said to you on Tereak on Saturday, I don't like the signing at all. However, if he proves me wrong, I'll tell you I'm wrong. This is it, and this is what it's looking like. This is what's totally fair, because I've heard even Arsenal fans talk about it. Things Havertz like this. You're there waiting to be proved wrong. That's fine. I understand that. I like to try and think of Mason Mount and Kai Havertz, for example, of why the managers brought them in. What will he add to the team in terms of his profile? As I said, I'm not really bothered about performances with signings, and that goes both ways. I don't really care how well someone has performed at their previous club. A la Coutinho, Griezmann, Longley at Barcelona, before they went to Barcelona, they were performing outstandingly for their clubs, but it didn't work out. Eden Hazard went from Chelsea to Real Madrid, didn't work out. There's things like in life, the points in their career, and also simply what will they add to that team? What in terms of characteristics as well, not just on the pitch, not just what their players' ability is. How what will they add onto into their team? Will they take something away? Will there be too much of a culture clash at times? That all happens, and that's what I always try and look at, and that's where I determine whether I rate a signing or I don't. But yeah, big up yourself, Manj, for that there. Ed's also added, Mount is a typical United signing of the past, buying the best prospects from clubs below them. Ferdinand, Carrick, Irwin, Bruce, Sheringham, York, Cole, picking off the talent of smaller clubs. Hey, Chelsea fans won't want to be hearing that about picking off the talent of smaller clubs. But I get where your point is. I get what, totally understand. And that's what I feel like Arsenal kind of operating now with the Declan Rice signing, started taking a player off at West Ham. And like what Manchester United used to do, let's also have a look. Just to let you know, most cars 4-wheel drives, you know what I mean. Most cars have 4-wheelers. Yes, exactly. Not all. Mr. Bean's car was it.
We just need them hench wheels, because you go in the snow with a nice little luxury car, you're gonna end up spinning.
Yeah, exactly that. Exactly. Let's have a look. Will, you should have known that things will happen. Don't say crazy numbers. He was at a team that creates more chances, and you can get. That's in terms of Jesus. Apologies there. Let me have a look. See if we got anything else. Big up my bro Samson in here too. Says, man, like Tereak, I see you grinding. Big up my brother. Long time no see, man. Hope to catch you again soon. And go check out his channel for non-football related content as well. He does a lot of reactions to things, and whether it's music or videos or controversial topics that people talk about online. Big up my brother Samson right there. I think now what we'll do is we'll move on into our next topics. We spent an hour, we spoke about Lavia, Mason Mount as well. Big up my brother CM. You know what to do. Go check his channel out. Link is in the description. You can also give him a follow on Twitter, CM22ENT. That's all platforms everywhere. Go check it out. And guys, before you do that as well, before we move on to the next topic, hit that like button, subscribe if you're new, and get commenting, get your thoughts in the chat. We love to hear them. Now, let's speak about the next one in this topic. Bayern Munich are set to make a second bid for Harry Kane. The first bid of 70 million euros was rejected by Tottenham, and Daniel Levy and Tottenham stand and say he is not for sale. We know when Daniel Levy says that, he usually sticks to his word unless it's for an outrageous price. But of course, CM, I also want to throw this to you here because it's Harry Kane is someone that's been spoken about with your club. Once the potential takeover does happen, it's a signing that you guys would like to make in an obvious position up front and for an obvious world-class player in that position. Bayern Munich, they're looking to make it, add him into their team, and that's an obvious position for them. They need someone to replace them, Lewandowski. They were quite fortunate in winning the Bundesliga last season. Eric Choupo-Moting was having to do a job there and fill in. How do you see this situation playing out between Bayern and Tottenham? And do you see him potentially making that move to Bayern or a Manchester United in the future? Let me know your thoughts.
Boy, the way Daniel Levy acts, it's like he will be there forever. And and that's a sad reality for Harry Kane. But looking at Bayern Munich, like you said, bro, very fortunate to win the league. It should have been Dortmund. It should have been Borussia Dortmund in the end of the day. But like, Bayern Munich are used to getting what they want, especially when it comes to in the Bundesliga itself, right? And they've needed to replace Robert Lewandowski. They're in a weird situation now because they've got a good coach in Thomas Tuchel, who's thrived in that league before in the end of the day. They've gotten rid of some of their guys in the board, and they're very ruthless with that, which a lot of people will like because they'll say they're serious about their football. Big ups to Wilf. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening. But they're serious about staying at the top. And they're a team that don't just want to win the Bundesliga, but want to win the Champions League as well. So seeing the bids that they've put in for Harry Kane, they will probably start working their way up gradually. But I don't see them as the team that's going to go to these extremely high levels for a guy in Harry Kane who has 1 year left in his contract, because there's always a possibility. Like, for me, I don't see, even if we get new owners, I don't see how Harry Kane makes it to Manchester United, for the reason that we still have an issue with the wages, FFP issues as well, which can't exactly be fixed with new ownership and money being pumped into the club. It's especially with the FFP changes, it's much more of a complex situation at Manchester United. And, you know, there are very contradictory reports in regards to how much we want to spend, 100 million net. Sometimes you hear 120 million, some people saying 200 million. That depends on, I guess, player sales. But when you look at the players that we want to sell, we're not exactly going to raise the funds for a big spend in summer, in my opinion. So Harry Kane, who's going to be close to 100 million alone, is that going to make sense? Probably not. But, you know, Bayern Munich would be a great place for him. I think he can go there, score tons of goals in the Bundesliga, and then he can compete in the Champions League as well, where, you know, he hasn't had much competition with Tottenham, unless you look at the season where they went on to face and lose to Liverpool in the Champions League final, where he came back when, well, maybe earlier than he should have. But I always found him as a guy that was going to stay in the Premier League if he was to leave Tottenham, just because that record is so close with Alan Shearer. If you continue at the level he is, and he's not exactly a guy where once he gets old, his skill set is going to work to the detriment of him as a player, because he has so many assets. He's not exactly fast and doesn't need to be fast, finds the right positions, both-footed, can pass the ball, has wonderful range, great at header of the ball as well. Just an exceptional striker and one of the best in Europe. So, for some reason, I just don't see him leaving Tottenham. And if he does, it's probably going to be dragged out to the final stages of this summer. I just feel like it's going to be one of those stories that are going to drag on. Everybody gets tired. And to be honest, if you're looking at Tottenham Hotspur, I mean, he's not going to sign a new contract. You're going to be missing out big time if you allow him to leave on a free. Because think about the money that could be reinvested in your squad if you sell Harry Kane now. And I do understand Daniel Levy. He's probably your greatest asset in how many years. You want to make sure you get the money, the correct money for him. But you don't want to be stubborn to the point where it works at the club's detriment. And I just feel like Daniel Levy's that type of guy to take it too far to the point where it all crashes and burns.
Absolutely. Again, and it's about the finances, isn't it? That's the problem with Harry Kane. You spoke about him eloquently as a player there. He's got everything to his game. He's a tremendous footballer. Everything that you want from a modern day striker. So when he can score with both feet, with ease in and outside of the box, the passing range, the awareness, the vision to pick out teammates when he drops deep and decides to go in those midfield central areas. And he's a leader as well, having that leadership. Someone who was a model professional, exactly what you want on and off the pitch. How he carries himself, a great example for those around him and young players in and around the team as well. A good role model for those in and around the club. But they're just simply not going to be able to afford him. I don't think Bayern Munich is, and that's the issue with a lot of Premier League teams. They just don't see it worthy enough of an investment because one, they can't financially. How much it will impact them in holding them back, or two, his age profile now. What is he? 29 years of age, approaching 30. There's no return of your investment right there in terms of sale after, once he signs that big contract. That's why Manchester City pivoted and went for Haaland in the end, because we know Haaland's not going to stay there for the rest of his career. That's not the final destination for Erling Haaland. But when they do decide to sell him on, they're gonna make a nice profit off that 50 million that they say that's quoted for him. But we know there's a few certain little brown envelopes there that Man City like to do. But hey, Harry Kane, I don't think he'll make that move to Bayern Munich. I do think they will put in a second bid and make that interest known. But if he is to leave, it would most likely be a Manchester United once the takeovers happen, once you've sorted out your financial fair play issues. But I see that more likely happening next season on a free. So I do think he'll have one more final season at Spurs. And just before I ask you about where do you think he'll end up, and then we'll get the guys' thoughts in the chat. Rich asked this question and Vibes wants you to answer it. Question for CM: how good is it to be able to have a conversation without our brother Brosh, who's a part of this community around? Hashtag let's CM.
Hey, listen, first and foremost, I have to big up Brush in it. Usually when Brush speaks, I know he does speak a lot, but he speaks wisdom. So I'm not gonna diss Brush today because he's our guy, man. He does the thing. I'm not gonna go that way. I know he's an EOP member. I'm not a part of that group. I'm a mercenary. You're
what? You're a boss. Whoever pays you, and that's where he's at. I paid him today, and then he's out there ready for the ups next week. Those ELP, you know, we're the fun police. That's what they call us. But yeah,
enemies of progress. Wherever the money lies. On EOP, isn't it?
You see that? That's it. You're not getting your final payment for this. I hope the Glazers say. Let's go on now let's see what you guys are saying in the chat as well, people. Bayern couldn't handle the Rice. Alfonso going forward more so now with Mane, Sane out the way, and Kane. Yeah, we might have to call him Carne for this, aren't we? Mane, Sane, and Carne. If that does happen, you will get your tap-ins with Musiala and Alfonso. So go and win something. Yep, definite something that he wants to win. But that doesn't really seem like his main ambition. I think he does want to win trophies. But I think he's aiming for that Premier League record first. And he wants to put his name there. And then maybe try and win something at another club like a Manchester United. Big up Football United TV. Big up my brother Matt on here as well. Go check them out there, people. They did a stream earlier on transfers too. Big up to yourself. Hope you're keeping good and well. He really wanted that question to be answered, but he's giving you your answer now. Big up my brother Rich. Let's have a look. Ed said Kane as a youth product is technically all profit. Levy's greed could mess this up for Spurs. He could buy them a few more go-kart tracks. Exactly that there, Ed. It's true. It'd be 100% profit. And as Matt says over here, smash the like button if you can, people. Listen to him. Appreciate you, my brother. Really appreciate that there. Let's have a look. They're in the Discord both booing us. Oh no, boo, bun the ELPs, boo. I can't believe it. I can hear it already in the headphones. I can hear it. King says Haaland will stay longer than people expect, he thinks. Could see him being at City for the next 7 to 8 years. Maybe set a new Premier League record. That's interesting because I'd say you're in the minority of people that think that, King. Me personally, I still don't think he will, because I think that Real Madrid call is loud, and especially for someone who, you know, of Erling Haaland, who I feel like he has his career path laid and set out, and he's very wise. He's got good agents around him. Rafael Pimenta, you know, previously Mino Raiola, rest in peace. I feel like they do set him up well for his next career move. They did it with that Salzburg move to Dortmund. We all know when players make that move to Dortmund, what's happening then. Following that, I think he went to Manchester City, and he knows at that team he can win now, win straight away, get his name really out there as one of the best in the world, and then you can really come in as a Galactico for Real Madrid, who will eventually be there. And with so much other things, well, this would be another stream in itself talking about the Super League. But when that eventually does happen, or the Champions League eventually becomes that. Either way, there will be a European Super League of some sort. They'll be able to offer him even more money. The money in football is only inflating, guys. It's only getting higher. And that's why we've seen the new developments in the Champions League. Once again, I don't want to get too deep into it. There's another stream. Why they've added more teams, why they want to add more games, not for this season, but for next season's Champions League, is for more revenue so that those European clubs can get as much revenue or as close as much revenue as those Premier League teams as well. What about UCM? Do you agree with? Do you agree or disagree with me? Because this is probably one of the first few times I've disagreed with King. This is a gem of it now. What do you think in terms of Haaland?
I think it's an interesting situation. I've always seen Haaland as the guy who he's taken stepping stones, and every part of his career has been methodically executed up to this point. I look at him at Manchester City, and they're in a great position as a club right now. I know there are those 100 and odd charges that have kind of been slid under the rug for now. But as a club, in terms of on-pitch success, they're in a great position. But even then, there's still an allure when it comes to your Real Madrid's. Barcelona, maybe not now because of the position they're in as a football club, but just the allure that those Spanish clubs have historically, even to this very day, it will attract the best players from around the world eventually. I do think that there is a great chance of Erling Haaland staying there for a good period of time, maybe 4, 5, 6 years, depending on what happens at the football club and if he has completed everything there is to complete at that point in England. But I feel like at a certain point of time, when a club like Real Madrid come calling, we don't know what position Barcelona will be in maybe 4 or 5 years from now. But depending on if they're in a great position, they may even enter the equation. Who knows? But that's an interesting conversation to be had, though. Like, I've always wondered, why do those two, and obviously they're the best teams, the most prestigious teams in La Liga for a reason, but why is it those two clubs in particular that hold this kind of allure, this like that amazes and attracts players time and time again? Because we've seen with Manchester United being one of the best clubs in the world and still not being able to hold on to a player like Cristiano Ronaldo because Real Madrid comes calling. The same could happen with a guy like Haaland. We've just seen it so many times throughout the years, and that's always something that I've kind of wanted to ask as a question. Yeah. What is it about a Real Madrid and a Barcelona that just makes you think that is the peak of football in the world?
You know what? This has been a question that I've always asked as well. And I feel like I've got an answer towards it now because, with us being English and English football fans, it's not quite as clear to us why players are so desire to go to Real Madrid so much, why they're held in such prestige. Yes, you can say the Champions League for Real Madrid, but Barcelona don't have as many Champions Leagues or anywhere near as Real Madrid. They don't even have as much as Liverpool, and they're not seen as that. And we English teams have had their periods of dominance. Man United more recently, Liverpool as well. But this is it. I think this is the answer. It's the cultural factors. Look at the players who go and have those dreams of playing for your Barcelonas and Real Madrids. A lot of them come from a Spanish-speaking or a Latin background, whether that's through Portugal or in Brazil, Argentina, any of the South American nations which speak the languages and have very cultural similarities. I think the weather as well in Spain is more desirable. The environment in terms of the attitude towards life is more relaxed over there. So it is desirable as for an athlete also to go there as well, and then being able to do that with Barcelona and Real Madrid, who have such a global fan base with passionate fans who attract so much endorsements, attract so much, in terms of publicity for these players and getting their name out there and being able to be remembered as a superstar across the world, because we don't watch La Liga as much now in this country. I certainly don't. Do you know what? I probably watched one or two La Liga games last season, and those two weren't even all the Clasico games. Previously, when Ronaldo and Messi, and when it was on Sky Sports, were playing, I was watching it with a lot more intrigue there and following the league a bit like how people, we hear a lot from the likes of Brush, from Ed, how they watched the Serie A when they watched AC Milan, Inter Milan, and why those clubs carry a lot of prestige as well. And if they were financially in a better position, I'm sure they would probably attract a lot of players from our clubs. So I think that is mainly to do with the culture, whether that's in and around the football club, the things that surround it, or even the lifestyle. Because he really wants to live in England too long, and
look, it's supposed to be summertime. It's raining all day. I want to get out of here, mate.
Yeah, exactly that there. So even in the non-summer months, they've got a beautiful weather and beautiful lifestyle there too. But yeah, that we've got plenty of comments in regards to this as well in the chat, for people who are more educated on this, I'd say, than we are, who have seen so many players and seen Spanish football a lot over the years. Moss in here says it's the hype CM. It's different levels, with their club presidents being larger than any politician, and they go on these campaigns to say what the superstars they would sign if president. Exactly true. They are ran as nations are run in a way as these football clubs are. Ed's also said Madrid and Barcelona were original integrators of talent from all over the world. This Stefano, Puskás, Cruyff, Koeman, Maradona, etc. That's why I'd say they looked worldwide before the teams. And that's a fantastic point, because the Premier League now has become a worldwide, global staple, whereas these guys were the first global, worldwide staple who brought all the best talents. Whereas in England, what did our clubs do? I'm talking pre-90s. If you think about your legends, your players, your Bruces, your Pallisters for Arsenal, your Winterburns, your Ian Wrights, etc. Yeah, we had the odd over Mars, but that was still once again in towards the 90s, and those things there. So would you think that as well is probably a factor?
It's a really good point from Ed, I think. And you know what? Like, in the grand scheme of things, I look at that and I think it's a shame where leagues like La Liga are now, Serie A, because the Premier League, as great it is that we watch a product, right, where, it's globally known, so many people from different countries love the league, Premier League, and so many different players are attracted to play there. It's a shame to see the financial issues that Serie A have, for example, or La Liga, and all of these Bundesliga even, to the point where, people will say, these leagues are farmer leagues in comparison to the Premier League, because I just think football would be better if money was spread out evenly. And I feel like with England and the Premier League having a monopoly over the entire of Europe, it works to a disservice, not just because we're seeing a lot of the grassroots clubs in these countries struggle. How many clubs in League One, League Two, even the Championship have had financial struggles despite the Premier League continuing to thrive? So we're seeing an unequal spread in terms of finances with the clubs in the football pyramid in England. But when you look at Europe as a whole and how and fair enough, depending on the federations and the governing bodies, you have to ask questions of how they are kind of promoting the games in their countries and making sure that the product is the best it possibly can be. But I just think there's too much desire for power in this day and age that the product of football as a whole will suffer if you don't have the personnel that want to uplift the competition and make the product of football as a whole in Europe, all over the world, the best it possibly can be. Because, I mean, you look at what Ed said with Real Madrid, being innovators, teaching people how to build your brand, how to scout, how to bring in players with talent and develop them into the best in the world. All of those things that originally, like what Ed said, not a lot of teams did. It took a long time for England and the Premier League to become marketable, a marketable brand worldwide. But because of those early innovators, you pick up small little pointers and you put it into your own design, and that's how you return with a big market brand like the Premier League that is known in the Americas, in the Caribbean, in Europe, in Asia, all of these different continents. It's just a shame that there isn't such an equal spread all over the world with the other top European leagues.
Do you know what? That's exactly that right there. It is true. And as Ed's as educated us here in the chat with getting players in and around Europe and the South Americas, and using their geographical advantages as well, links nationally, and make it easier to get players from South America, like the FIFA system, like what we have now, culturally settle in. But looking at the players, CM, the players that they've brought in, and King brought it up here about getting these star players like Figo, Zidane, R9, CR7, Bale, Benzema, etc. from Real Madrid. And then for Barcelona, Ronaldinho, Romario, Messi, Eto'o. And once again, look at the wide range of those players and how spread they are. Bro, what's the reason why you support Man United? I don't go okay, but actually, yeah, you can go into detail about it. But with me, it's because of Ian Wright for my sister, someone that we relate to. Although a lot of black Man United fans, and Twitter says they call them Peckham Reds. A lot of that is because of Andrew Cole is why a lot of those Man United fans support the club, is because they've watched someone who was a great player, who was one of their best players, that they were able to relate with because they came from an area, they had the same color of skin, they spoke the same way. And that's what it is a lot of the time with these Real Madrid and Barcelona players, isn't it? But what was 100%. The reason? Just out of curiosity, what is the reason why you support Man United?
You know what? Yeah, even in my mind, the reason why I support Man United is extremely vague.
Yeah.
Because, like, I just remember as a team, my earliest memory as a football fan per se is seeing like a poster of Cristiano Ronaldo somewhere. And I don't remember where that poster was, but I just saw it. And I guess ever since then, I've been getting to know the club even more. And I went through a stretch, I would say, towards the start of secondary school, I think, where I would always watch Manchester United, past, present. So I'd be watching old games, seeing old players. And that's where I started, because like Ruud van Nistelrooy, he was my favorite player when I was doing all this kind of research, because I loved the way as a striker he was ruthless. And at the time I was playing as a striker, so I kind of wanted to model my game after him, how he was really at the time a guy who could score with both of his feet, with his head, positionally excellent, and he just had that aura. I know a lot of the time we speak about aura as a footballer, but it's a real thing sometimes when you're just that good. But in general, with Manchester United, as I started to learn more, research, I became more attracted to the club. So it wasn't really one of these stories where it was like, oh, this person supported the team, so I decided. It was more so me being led to the pathway of supporting Manchester United in general, to the point where I would say, I don't know, 2010, 2011, when I start watching football on a more regular basis, because I really got drawn back in due to the 2010 World Cup. Because I liked football when I was younger. I kind of fell out of love with football, and I started watching it again and when the 2010 World Cup started. I love the atmosphere. I love the vibes with it being in Africa, South Africa in general. Just it was great. It was relatable, and it was something different that I had never seen before. And then after that, I made it a conscious effort of really doubling down on me wanting to be involved in football, not just playing it, but also watching it, getting to understand the historic value of the game and everything that comes with it. And I think that's where I really became locked into Manchester United, because it was a team that I had allegiance with before, but that grew as the years went on.
Exactly, yeah, it's true. And when you bring up about World Cups, that really does assert a lot of our loves, and we all have those first World Cup memories. That another one could be another stream in itself, right there. But nah, it was nice to hear that, and it was nice to kind of hear that you kind of fell out of love with the game, but then seeing it in the 2010 World Cup once again, making it relatable. That's why we love football, is because we can either picture ourselves doing these things, whether it's in our head or our dreams, or looking at people that you like to think represent you in a way. So totally understand that as well. And do you know what? We were speaking about Real Madrid and Barcelona, and we do have some breaking news. I'm not sure a lot of you guys will know of this player unless you're really into your football or in that way. But Real Madrid have submitted an improved bid for Arda Güler. So this is a young Turkish international who is deemed as the Turkish Messi, who plays for Fenerbahce, played with Mesut Özil, and was their star man this season. So why this is interesting is because Barcelona had, in fact, paid for the release clause, spoke to the player, spoke to the entourage. It looked set that he was going to play for Barcelona. But Real Madrid have put a 20 million euro bid, which is over the release clause, to get him and to bring him to the Santiago Bernabeu. Wow, this is it. This is more than just the player, by the way. This is once again Real Madrid saying, no, we're going to show you it's political, how it always is with these Spanish teams, and Real Madrid and Barcelona, why there is such vim and why the fans really don't like each other. They have presidents that think in totally different ways in terms of football, how that's played, etc. It is interesting. And as Moss has brought here, Barcelona today have signed Victor Roque, who's the young Brazilian under 20s, under 20s World Cup winner. But yeah, he's a young prospect out there. But Arda Güler, Real Madrid taking him from the noses of Barcelona right there. Are you familiar with Arda Güler, CM? Have you seen much of him or any comments or anything?
You know what? I haven't watched games, but there's somebody in my Discord that is a Fenerbahce fan. So always send in when they score goals or when they do some great things in games. So I'm a little familiar with the player. Definitely a lot of talent there, and you can see why Real Madrid are going, above and beyond to get him, because there's talent with the young player, and once again, it's just about going into the right environment and seeing how you can handle the pressure. Because when you go to a place like Real Madrid now, it's not easy to get settled there. You have to understand the pressure that comes with being a player in Los Blancos, the fans, their demands, and all of that stuff there. So it will be interesting to see if accepted and if all goes through, how he will grow into the player a lot of people expect him to be. Because there's high expectations.
Exactly. Mesut Özil himself said that he thinks Arda Güler will be a better player than him. So that's putting on a lot of pressure on the young man. And just looking from an outside perspective, Barcelona fans will not want to hear this. I think Real Madrid is a better move for him anyway right now, because there's so much uncertainty surrounding Barcelona with their finances. I know they've just come off the back of winning the league, but if you also look at how on a playing standpoint, disregarding the finances, because Barcelona fans are quite confident that will get sorted, even though I'm not so sure. They're selling away their future. You know, CM, you're a basketball fan, right? And you've seen plenty of teams do all sorts of foolishness, Brooklyn Nets, where they trade away their future draft picks, to try and get players that will win now. How much does that, how often does that fail? A lot.
You will always pay. When you trade away your future, you will always pay. And it could be the same here for Barcelona. They're trying to get all of this short-term success because they have an idea that if you win and you achieve this much, that you're going to get an influx of money that will solve all of our problems. But what about the future? What if you don't have that much level? Because they expected to go far in the Champions League. They ended up coming to the Europa League and getting knocked out by Man United.
First round.
Yeah.
That's true.
So what if all of this stuff that they think is going to happen doesn't? Then you don't get that influx of money. And then you've thrown away your future now, and you've had to repeatedly change your plans because the success you expected didn't come to fruition.
Mm-hmm.
And you're still in this financial mess. Like, fair to them. They've won the league. They have young talent and all of this stuff there. But in a few years' time, that could all blow up once again. And then what position are Barcelona in? What are you gonna? Where do you go from here?
And then if you look at Real Madrid, what are they doing? They're doing the complete opposite. They're building for the future. Bellingham, Camavinga, Tchouaméni, Valverde, bringing in those players. Even Fran Garcia, a 20-year-old left back, Spain international. Now you're bringing an Arda Güler to add him into Vinicius Junior, Rodrigo, who are still around under 23s. That's as Mossa, their supreme talent right there. Real Madrid have got building for the future. It's a perfect environment for Arda Güler to go in and know he'll get trusted and know he'll get game time. It's exciting for him. Hey, I wouldn't mind being Arda Güler right now, having Barcelona and Real Madrid coming at me. But yeah, it should be very interesting to see how this saga unfolds. We've got one more update to talk about as well, people, with CM. So before we do that, before we get into it and break it down, make sure you hit that like button if you haven't done so already. And you already know what to do. Go check out my brother, CM. The link is in the description. Go follow him on Twitter at CM22ENT. And whilst you're on there, you can drop me a follow. Just put in Tereak, you'll find it. But if you want to put the handle, Tereak, at Tereak Talks, right there. You'll always see me and CM talking about our clubs, our basketball. CM talks more about basketball than I do. I'm way more of a casual fan. CM is well-versed and knowledge in both sports as well. I only turn up and play.
Still learning, bro. I'm still learning.
Hey, aren't we all we never arrive. That's how we should always remain in life. You never arrive, no matter what. So go check us out over there. And we're going to talk about now Moises Caicedo. I feel like every transfer we spoke about links with you again, CM. Lavia, wanted by a lot of Man United fans. Kane, wanted by a lot of Man United fans. Caicedo.
I feel like you strategically decided to reel me in for this particular stream.
Exactly. I knew you'd be well. I know you watch a lot of football anyway in Premier League football, but you'll be even more knowledgeable on this because, you know, this is a lot of talk surrounding your club. Moises Caicedo to Chelsea. That seems like the fate. That's the most favourable destination if you're a betting person to put on that right there. Because what we've got the update is today that there is positive talks for Moises Caicedo with Brighton. Personal terms are set to be agreed. There is no issues regarding that there, says Fabrizio Romano. But for you, CM, it's Caicedo and Chelsea. Do you see that as a perfect destination for him? Although there are other clubs that are interested, your club has been touted to have interest in him as well. Arsenal still remain interested. There's a lot of reports that come out there as that from credible journalists. Don't sleep on Arsenal in this transfer for Moises Caicedo. They're just still trying to work on prioritize on other things. But Moises Caicedo to Chelsea, how do you feel about this?
It's a good deal if Chelsea end up getting him, and I feel like this was going to be the outcome for a minute now, especially when you see Mason Mount. He comes to Manchester United. A lot of United fans wanted Caicedo because they felt like he was more of the player that we needed in terms of a guy that can either play next to Casemiro or be an understudy to Casemiro. But, when you look at the Chelsea situation, once again, he goes into a place where he will be needed. A lot of guys that have left Chelsea now, an opportunity for players to go in and make an impact. And you're going into a midfield. They've got Enzo Fernandez, who I think will end up being a great player for Chelsea. We saw some good parts of him last season as well. Just a bit of instability, but that's due to the club's position as a whole. So, it would be a great signing. And I think for Chelsea, they will go for him because in terms of the price point, it's unrealistic for a Manchester United to go in for him once again because of our reported budget. Arsenal, I think they've done a really good job in staying firm of how they've wanted to structure deals this summer. So like you said, on the off chance, maybe Arsenal comes around the corner and says, hey, we are interested. We want to have a go. But I think Chelsea is the clear-cut team to say, all right, we think he's going there, but there may be some other teams in the mix too. But great move. You improve your midfield, add a bit of stability. When you think of a guy in Caicedo, defensively, he does a great job. And once again, a guy that can improve going forward as well. So it's just, when you think about this summer, there's been so many players, talented young players, who have been available to move. And I think some, speaking of my club in general, we probably haven't taken advantage of those guys, especially in the relegation market. I found it strange how a lot of teams haven't really bitten at those relegation sides when you look at the quality of your likes of Leicester, for example, who are going down, Southampton and co. Yeah. But yeah, another talented player going to a team that are going to need him 100% in terms of their rebuild because they've let go a lot of guys now and they're bringing in young players and a specific player ID, which I like because sometimes with Chelsea, especially with some of the signings they made last summer, you looked at them and they said, okay, they're signing all of these talented guys, but how are they going to fit in? How are they going to specifically improve that side? And then you get rid of Thomas Tuchel and it's like, you don't know how to answer that question even more than last time when you had Thomas Tuchel. So now you can see a clear plan and it's just about making it work. But it hurts my heart when you bring out the name Caicedo because even though in hindsight, I didn't know the player at the time, but knowing that Manchester United had an opportunity to sign him for 5 million before, and that would have been a player that you could have developed over time. Not saying it would have worked out because he's gone to Brighton and become a really good player. You've seen their developmental system over the years and how they've been able to literally bring in guys, develop them into good Premier League or great Premier League players, and then sell them at a price, at a profit that helps them to rebuild and bring in more players of that profile and ilk. And especially more with De Zerbi now as manager, he's kind of elevated the status of Brighton even more with the way that they play, the kind of players that they're looking at. So, just a great player, another great player created by Brighton, and I'm sure he will do well at Chelsea.
Exactly. If he is that's where he ends up, of course. And the reason I put that if he is because I have a dream. And let me answer, and I want to answer this question, and now we'll link to this one here because Ed says, honest question, could Caicedo end up being the next Basuma, a Brighton and Hove Albion player that raises your floor somewhat, but doesn't move the ceiling? Ed, I am very strong on Caicedo because I think he is a player of tremendous potential and someone that is wherever he goes, he will succeed. It's not wherever. Of course, he needs to go to the right environment where a team will build around him and give him the right pieces, like every player. But I am confident he will succeed. And I was always skeptical of Basuma, and I got tons of abuse. I went on Gal's channel last year when it was announced that Basuma went to Tottenham, and obviously Arsenal fans, and it was linked with Arsenal a lot, and a lot of Arsenal fans were devastated. But with Basuma, the reason why I wasn't so keen on him is because just stylistically, he's someone that's very flashy, that does the things with the ball in terms of how he carries it. He's got a good elegance in terms of how he carries it and moves the ball as well. Good tackler in that sense. But for a possession-based team now who are going to have the onus of breaking teams down, he's not that brilliant of a passer with the ball in terms of progressing it and breaking through the lines. That was always the area that Basuma needed to work on. Great carrier of the ball, but progressively with passing it, breaking it through the lines, not always playing in transition, which being a top team going to a Tottenham, you're not always going to have the ability to do, although that's what Tottenham wanted to do and desire. Moving into a completely different system where, you know, Brighton did try and play more possession-based football, but you're not as keenly watched. The eyes aren't on you as much. So when you do have your shocking games, it wasn't seen anywhere near as much. And someone who was further along into his career, I wasn't that keen on Basuma, and that's why he ultimately did go for such a low nominal fee in the end, in my opinion. Although I still think he'll be a success at Spurs now with Ange Postecoglou there. But he doesn't have the all-round ability, as Moss says, that Caicedo does have. He is a complete player. Defensively, a strong, one of the best tacklers in the league defensively. How strong he is for his size and age as well. Still got a lot of even development in that area in terms of physically. How composed and elegant that he is on the ball, but the passing, the range of passing to do with it, short passes, long passes. And the best way that I can say, my bro, is watching him is have a look at any clip from that Manchester United semi-final. That's where I was completely sold on him. In a high-pressured situation, in a high-pressured game against a good tactical team in Manchester United, where Erik ten Hag will set them up well. We've seen that. Even in Manchester City, they gave Manchester City a tough game. Caicedo ran the show in midfield and took a lot of that onus, breaking up the play, driving forward when players like Casemiro or Fernandes were pressing him, having that confidence and the mentality to do it as well in such big games. Caicedo at 21 has the world at his feet, and I really do love this player, and I'd love it if we was able to get him seriously. And I think he'll partner, as CM was mentioning earlier on, Enzo really well, and give him so much more balance, and let Enzo have the freedom to go further forward, be more of a number 8, get into the final third, not be as defensive. Not when I say defensive, not just play deeper in those areas, because Caicedo can mop it all up. Having that versatility to play right back. I forgot again in the second game where they beat Man United, he locked off Rashford. How many players have done that this season? Not many at all.
Superb, man.
So he's a tremendous footballer as well. So yeah, CM, would you like? We spoke about Caicedo with such high praise there.
Yeah.
Once again, if the takeover happens, is this a player that you'd still want to sign?
For sure, because, and it's interesting, Manchester United have been the latest name to come out for Manchester United is Sofiane Amrabat. He's a cheaper option per se, a guy that can either play next to or with Casemiro, or a guy that can be rotated around. But if Caicedo was there, preferably, that would be the name you go for. And I'm pretty sure, hey, Ed, that's pain, man. That's just what we go through. That's what we go through. But like, I'm sure a lot of Manchester United fans would have preferably said I would have got Caicedo instead of Mason Mount. And I know they're two different player profiles and all that stuff there, but I think the way we were going into this summer was we need to get a midfielder to rotate around with Casemiro, make his life a little easier. Of course, we needed a Christian Eriksen kind of replacement or a rotational option with him too, which I think Mason Mount can kind of act as from time to time. Some people have spoken about him kind of switching with Bruno Fernandes at times as well. So it'll be interesting to see how he's really properly integrated into the team. But it's hard to say no if Caicedo is an option to come to your club, just because of, like you said, his ability, what he's shown at Brighton, how he's grown. It was funny. I think it was last season, but it feels so long ago now, when he kind of put out this statement saying that he wanted to leave and then he ended up staying because the Zerbi was like, nah, you've got to stay. But you've got to give him credit as well, because a player of that character, you could have said his head was out the door, but then you've got to kind of refocus and perform the way he did for that second half of the season. So I'll give him credit for that. And wherever he goes in general, whether it's Arsenal, whether it's Chelsea or anywhere else, hey, I'm sure he will do very well.
Yeah, definitely. Those three clubs, I think he'd be perfect at. Liverpool fans were obviously interested in him, but they can't afford him simply. But yeah, if he went to Man United, clear pathway for him right there. Play with. He's that good. He could play with Casemiro and still allow Man United to dominate. He could replace Casemiro. He's got so much that him and Rice. That's what I really love about them, and that's why Man United were also interested in him too, because you can play. They're so versatile in how they can play. You can push them further up. They're comfortable in each third of the pitch, and there's not many players out there that can play in those thirds. The defensive third, in the middle part, and the final third, where that's really what you want to see, these types of players.
And I see why you say that, bro, because when you look at Declan Rice, and one of the most interesting developments in his game for me, which has kind of set him out as a top talent, is his ability to receive the ball in deep positions and take that ball with him, drive his team up the pitch and create opportunities that way. One example that is in my mind is his goal in the Europa League semi-final, I think it was, where he drags the ball from deep. He has the skill to kind of weave around players and in the end finish with his left foot. That's what's potentially going to go to Arsenal. A guy with that level of talent that isn't just going to make you defensively more solid, but also going to provide you with quality in attacking scenarios, whether it's with his passing or his ability to carry that ball up the pitch, carry the team up the pitch, and really add that extra threat. So when you have a guy in Caicedo who can kind of give you a bit of insurance just in case you do lose possession, that unlocks Declan Rice a bit more to say, all right, in this team, you have more of a license to take that ball forward and be an attacking threat, score more goals for this team. And then the goal scoring gets spread out even more, like what Arsenal are doing right now with all of their guys spreading the goals around, so you don't have to rely on that one star dude to say, we need you to score 20 plus goals or else we are not going to win. We are not going to succeed. I like that.
Absolutely, bro. Well said again. Well said. I feel like I've said that every time you've said something, CM. Really do. But yeah, that's the next development for you guys, isn't it? So that you can spread your goals around, so you're not so heavily reliant on one or two players to go grab your goals. That's why Arsenal, and this is why I love talking football with you, and you're always welcome on the channel. This isn't me talking from a biased point of view. Arsenal are back next season. Because we're not heavily reliant on one goal scorer. Jesus doesn't just score a goal. Saka doesn't just score the goals. Martinelli. If one of them are out of form, that's fine. We've got other players that can pick it up, and the mentality of these players, they're not temperamental in that way. They will still perform. They will still have a level of output that they will give because Arteta's set them up so well. The floor is very high and the ceiling is even greater for that. And why I believe Manchester United will be fine in that sense. And I see how Man United are doing as well, adding in a Mason Mount. That shot for me, I've said it to United fans. I actually wouldn't buy a striker this summer. And it sounds crazy, and people would say, "Whoa, what are you doing?" I'd rather loan a striker. Yes, there is a need there, but the market for a striker this summer, it's just not there, bro. It's just not there. There's no value for money. There's so many risks that you're going to be trying to make. Rasmus Højlund, me personally, I'm not a fan. I don't think his game is further along in his development enough to be willing enough to take that risk. Signing a player from outside of England is already a massive risk in itself because you're hoping that they're going to have to adapt their style of play quickly enough. And that's hard in itself, even if you've got all the tools to look like you'll succeed. But I still don't think he has all the tools. His hold-up game, he needs to still get that well-roundedness. He's got tremendous potential with that speed and that finishing ability that he has, and that positioning in and around the box. But you need more than that to be a top player for a striker for Man United.
And that's what we need to be careful of in this day and age. Speed. Speed is a tremendous asset to have in football, but it's not the be-all and end-all. What about the technical, especially at a club like Manchester United? Because I've been working on this video recently, and it's regarding a lot of our attackers and why we failed. Romelu Lukaku came to Manchester United, and at the time, you could say he was probably one of the most dominant strikers in the Premier League and potentially in all of Europe. And when I look back at his time at Manchester United, what did he get ridiculed for? His inability to play with his back to goal. You know, he didn't have his touch. People killed him on that. But it was his technical ability that let him down. Of course, there were fitness struggles and other things that came beyond that. But at Manchester United, there is a massive expectation for a striker to have it all. Technical ability, inside, outside of the box, link-up play, finishing with your head, with your both feet. And that's just a lot of pressure to have.
Exactly that. They're having that temperament to come in. We still don't know about those things because once again, it's not just about ability at Man United. We've seen so many tremendous players with the ability, but it's about having the temperament, the characteristics to make that big step and that next jump. I wouldn't personally take the risk for the fee for Manchester United. If you were to get a striker, I've seen you been linked with Mehdi Taremi. I think that's a good player. He's not someone that's going to kick you on and take you to the title challenging levels, but to solidify yourself in the Champions League, to have someone who's experienced, who knows his way around the block in the Champions League, especially, he could do a job. I think he's better than Weghorst technically and more of a threat going forward. So I'd rather take a little punt on that rather than going out for a Rasmus Højlund. If Man United have their wits about them, another player that I love is at Brighton, Evan Ferguson. Give him another year. And you'll see. He's someone who's got all the tools to do it in the Premier League as well. And he's a Man United signing, or he's got written that all over him, I think.
Do you think he's going to play a bit more this season? Because I know they've had Undav as well at Brighton, who is kind of emerged as another guy who could be a goal-scoring threat in that front line too. But do you think Evan Ferguson's going to get more of a chance as he grows into this Brighton squad under Zerbi?
I do think so, because he came into the side later on in the season. It was actually post World Cup when he started to make a few appearances. And I think he ended up with 9 or so goals, which is quite high. Given the games that he played in between 10 to 15 games. He was also robbed of a few more games because of injury. But I think he'll get a lot more starts now that the Brighton are selling a few more players. We'll phase in from Danny Welbeck. He was, 17 when he made his debut in the Premier League this season, 18, 19 now. And he started more games towards the end of the season. And CM. So I like to think I can be quite balanced when I talk about players. When I saw him rock up at the Emirates this season when we lost 3-0 to Brighton, bro, he bullied our centre-backs. And I've not seen many strikers do that this season. he barred Saliba and knocked him to the ground in the 4-2 win, what we had at the Amex Stadium. But Evan Ferguson, hold up play, technical ability, he's got it all. He's got it all. It says, hold up, talking about my boy Welbs. Yep, he took his place towards the end of the season. And I think Manchester United will be a perfect destination. I'd love him at Arsenal myself. I hope Arsenal are doing the work to get him in next season. But there is a clearer pathway at Manchester United, I do believe. If you don't get Harry Kane, Evan Ferguson comes straight in. And maybe with the Man United building, you can get both as well. But we'll wait and see on that. But we are going to wrap it up here, ladies and gents. Thank you so much to my brother CM, who I did ask upon on short notice, 45 minutes before the show. I did ask and dropped him a message. I tried to give him a call. He was eating his dinner. So he dropped me a message saying, "What's up?" I says, "Are you free for tonight, my bro?" And he says, "Of course." So now massive appreciation to my brother CM as well. Do you want to let the people know where they can find you? I've told them a couple of times. They should have done it already. If they don't know, now you know. You know the rest. But now let the people know where they can find you. Have you got anything coming up?
Yeah, well, you can find me at CM22ENT on YouTube, CM22, my second channel as well. You can find that link to my main channel, Manchester United content. You can follow me on Twitter at the same as well, just speaking football, basketball, wrestling as well, if you're into that. But yeah, I'm currently working on a video that's taken me some time. It's regarding Manchester United's failed attempts to sign the next attacker, which is quite an interesting video because I've got to go in kind of read up about the past, how past managers have operated at the club, and the reason why a lot of our signings have kind of failed in that regard, which is a shame, but it's just a part of Manchester United's last decade or so, it feels like now, since everything seemed like we were going to continue being on this upward trajectory. And in 2013, things have just continuously gone downhill. But that is life. Eventually, we'll be back at the top again someday. And we've just got to enjoy that rise once again, hopefully under Eric Ten Hag. But thank you for inviting me on the show, Tereak. You know, it's always a great conversation. You know, to let me speak, gang. I can always speak on Tereak Talk. So large up the TTF and everybody inside, and shout out to Cappy as well. He's on a little hiatus, but he'll be back when the season starts.
That's what I like to hear. Yes, and we're definitely gonna have to get something cooking on a regular basis. You're always welcome, and look, and the chat has enjoyed you as well. Thank you to those who are still here as well, and even if you are watching this afterwards, thank you for tuning in. And I hope that you do enjoy it. I hope you have enjoyed it, and yeah, we definitely need to have CM back. Let us know in the comments if we can get a regular show going when the season definitely kicks off, and even before that too. So massive thanks to CM. Guys, we will be back here tomorrow night. If there is any breaking news, we will dedicate the show on that. Otherwise, we'll just continue talking transfers and football. And as we do here, we never stick to the topics that we always have on the title. We always like to delve in a little bit deeper, whether it's about football, even talking about life. That's another reason why I really enjoy talking to CM as well. We go on mad tangents, but you guys seem to enjoy it as well, which is unique to the channel. So I do like that. But guys, hope you enjoy the rest of your evening or afternoon or day, wherever you're at. God bless and peace. We're out. And let me find the outro.